The day the sky darkened wasn't a day like any other. Earth's calm was shattered by the looming shadow of something far beyond human comprehension. The Galactic Empire, an ancient and seemingly unstoppable force, had come. Earth's leaders had known it was coming, but nothing could prepare them for the stark reality of the Empire's arrival. The fleet, a terrifying display of technological might, stretched across the heavens, an armada of warships that dwarfed anything humanity had ever conceived. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Steele stood at the windows of the United Nations headquarters in New York City, watching the vast shadow of the Empire's fleet stretch across the sky. The sun, normally so vibrant and comforting, was now barely visible, obscured by the enormous starships above. Her hands were steady on the railing, though her mind raced. The calm surface of the Earth's defense system, which had always felt invulnerable, now seemed so fragile under the gaze of these invincible invaders. "We're not ready for this," a voice beside her interrupted her thoughts. It was Major Lucas Graves, her second-in-command, a military officer who had worked with her on diplomatic issues before, but nothing like this. Sarah didn't turn. Her eyes remained locked on the sight in front of her. "We've never had to be ready for this. No one ever thought something like this would come. But we'll adapt." Lucas shifted uncomfortably. "Adapt? How?" "They outnumber us. Their weapons. Our best estimates are that they could obliterate our fleets in minutes. The reports from our observers, it's beyond anything we've ever seen." Sarah didn't reply immediately. She understood the magnitude of the situation better than anyone. The Galactic Empire's ships were unlike anything Earth had ever faced. Massive dreadnoughts that cruised silently through the void, their hulls impenetrable to most conventional weapons, their technology far outstripping human innovation. But what they lacked in empathy, Earth had in abundance. And it was empathy, humanity's greatest strength, that would be the key to their survival. Not weapons, not machines, but the spirit of those who called this planet home. The sound of the emergency council doors opening snapped Sarah from her thoughts. Inside, the leaders of the world had gathered. She could feel the weight of their eyes on her as she entered. They were waiting for her to speak, to deliver the words that would decide Earth's fate. Commander Steele, the President of the United States, Edward Hayes, began. His voice was grim but steady. "We've reviewed the Empire's demands. What's your assessment?" Sarah looked at the group of leaders. The room was tense, tighter than it had ever been in history. Leaders from Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas all sat around the large conference table, faces drawn with worry, some even pale. There was fear in the air, but there was also resolve. They hadn't given up on Earth yet. Not all of them, at least. "Their demands are straightforward," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the silence. "The Empire wants tribute. Not just resources, but something far more valuable, our compliance, our autonomy. The tribute they ask is symbolic, but it's designed to make us their vassals. They will protect us from other galactic threats, but only if we bend the knee. And if we don't comply?" Another voice, the French ambassador, asked. Sarah's gaze sharpened. "They've made it clear. If we don't submit, they will destroy our defenses." Without warning, without hesitation, a murmur rippled around the table. The stakes had never been higher, and some of the leaders seemed to understand that. Earth's survival wasn't just about fighting back. It was about refusing to surrender their freedom. "Commander, you've dealt with interstellar diplomacy before. What are our options?" President Hayes asked. Sarah thought for a moment, weighing the choices. They could fight. The human fleet, though smaller, was formidable. Earth's military had learned to defend against interstellar threats, small incursions, border skirmishes. But facing an empire of this scale, with its incomprehensible power, was another matter. She could feel the heat of the eyes on her. The leaders were waiting for a plan, a strategy that would either keep them free or see them fall. "We can't fight them head-on," Sarah said slowly, almost to herself. "Our fleets won't survive a direct confrontation. Their weapons are far beyond our own. But we do have something they don't, our ability to adapt. We need time. If we can buy time, we can prepare. We can disrupt their communications, weaken their forces. We'll need to act quickly. And if they don't give us time? The Russian representative leaned forward, his eyes cold. What then? Then we do what humanity has always done in the face of a crisis, Sarah replied firmly, her voice unwavering. We fight back. Not because we think we'll win, but because we refuse to give in. We will not surrender our world, our freedom, to an alien empire. The room fell silent. For a moment, no one spoke, the gravity of Sarah's words hanging in the air. Then, the president nodded. I agree with you. We will prepare for the worst. But we will not give up. Sarah turned to Lucas, who was standing by the door. Major Graves, begin preparing the fleet. I want the military on high alert. We need every possible advantage we can muster. Yes, Commander, Lucas replied, already on his way out. Sarah remained in the room with the world's leaders. There was no more time for pleasantries, no more time for second-guessing. Earth's future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity would not go down without a fight. The Empire had made a mistake if they thought Earth would bend the knee without resistance. As Sarah left the conference room, her thoughts were a storm of calculations, plans, and strategies. The Empire's fleet was already hovering above the planet, an imposing reminder of what was at stake. She didn't know what the coming days would bring, but one thing was certain: Earth's struggle for survival was just beginning. Chapter 2: The Empire's Demands ****. The vast expanse of the United Nations chamber felt colder now, as if the presence of the Galactic Empire's fleet was leaking into the very walls of Earth's last line of defense. Sarah Steele stood at the head of the table, facing the world's leaders once more. The Empire's demands, delivered through a holographic transmission, echoed in her mind. An ultimatum wrapped in arrogance and power. The silent tension that hung in the air was palpable. Sarah knew this wasn't just a negotiation. This was a test of humanity's very essence. Could they bend the knee to a foreign empire in exchange for protection, or would they stand their ground and face extinction? She glanced around the table. President Hayes, seated at the head, looked older than she remembered. The European Union's ambassador, Maria Weber, was as stoic as ever, her sharp eyes betraying little emotion. The Russian delegate, Sergei Ivanov, shifted uncomfortably, glancing at his communication device as if expecting an urgent message. But the true weight of this moment didn't lie in their responses. It was in the decision she was about to make. Sarah's voice broke the silence, sharp and clear. The Empire's offer is simple: submission or annihilation. A murmur ran through the room. The words echoed like a death sentence. The concept was staggering, the audacity of it almost beyond belief. But Sarah had been prepared for this moment, even if the rest of the world had not. Commander Steele, President Hayes began, his voice tight with strain. What's the reality of this? Can we actually fight them? Or do we need to consider the alternative? Sarah clenched her jaw. The truth is, we don't stand a chance in a direct confrontation. Not yet, at least. She paused, allowing the gravity of the situation to sink in. Their fleet is far beyond our capabilities. Our ships are powerful, but they're nothing compared to the sheer scale of the Empire's warships. They can wipe us out with ease. The Russian delegate's voice cut in, sharp and blunt. Then why even consider defying them? This isn't the time for pride. They have the firepower to crush us. Submission may be our only option. I don't believe that, Sarah replied, her gaze steady. Their power is overwhelming, yes, but that doesn't mean we have to bend the knee. We may be outmatched in terms of firepower, but not in spirit, not in determination. Earth is not a colony to be taxed and ruled. It is a sovereign world, and we will fight to remain that way. But at what cost? Maria Weber interjected, her voice calm, yet tinged with concern. Are we willing to sacrifice millions of lives for a fight we cannot win? Their demand for tribute doesn't come with an option for negotiation. This isn't a matter of freedom, it's survival. Sarah's eyes met hers. And what is survival without freedom? I won't let Earth become a pawn in someone else's empire. I'll negotiate, but not from a place of weakness. We need to buy time to prepare and to strike back. The room fell silent again as Sarah's words hung in the air, each leader reflecting on the choices before them. Every path was fraught with peril. What are our options? President Hayes asked, his voice quieter now, more focused. Can we delay them long enough to build some kind of defense? We'll need to be smart, Sarah said. Their technology is sophisticated, but their reliance on centralized communication and control can be exploited. If we can disrupt their communications, make them think we're submitting without truly doing so, we might buy the time we need. How long? The Russian delegate pressed. A matter of days, maybe a week at best. Our military forces will need time to prepare countermeasures. And in the meantime, we need to work on destabilizing their systems. A few small hits can cripple their entire operation. President Hayes sat back, pondering the possibilities. You're suggesting a war of attrition. We hit them where it hurts, disrupt their ability to act, and force them to rethink their strategy. Yes, Sarah answered firmly. We don't have the resources to engage them head-on, but we can delay them, create confusion, and throw off their plans. Our best chance is to keep them uncertain. Maria Weber spoke again, more quietly this time. You're asking us to gamble with our lives. If they retaliate, they will, Sarah interrupted. But we'll make it costly. They will see that Earth isn't an easy target. They will understand that we won't simply roll over. If we play it right, we can shift the balance in our favor. A heavy silence followed her words. Every person in that room understood the stakes. If the Empire retaliated, the consequences would be dire. But Sarah's resolve had a way of cutting through their doubt. The plan wasn't flawless, but it was the only chance they had. She had to make them believe it was the right course. We don't have a choice, Sarah continued, meeting each leader's gaze. The alternative is submission, and I refuse to let Earth become a colony. If we don't act now, we risk everything we've worked for, everything we've built. President Hayes looked at her for a long moment, his face lined with worry, but also a growing respect. All right, Commander, we'll back you. Do whatever it takes to slow them down. But remember, if this goes wrong, it's not just the military we lose. It's everything. Sarah nodded. I understand, but I'm confident we can do this. Earth has never bowed to anyone, and we're not about to start now. The room emptied, but Sarah remained for a moment, staring out the window. The dark silhouette of the Empire's ships lingered in the sky. They were waiting. They were watching. And soon, the real battle would begin. Chapter 3, the hum of the United Nations building, seemed to vibrate with an undercurrent of tension that no one could shake. Sarah Steele sat in her office, eyes fixed on the live feed from the Galactic Empire's command ship, which orbited above Earth like an ominous, watchful eye. The sleek, silver starship glimmered in the endless darkness of space. It was a symbol of power, an undeniable reminder of the stakes at hand. Her fingers drummed on the edge of her desk, a rhythmic movement betraying the unease she felt. The negotiations, which were supposed to be a last-ditch attempt at peace, had become increasingly difficult. Each transmission from the Empire's representative, Governor Krellin, pushed them closer to the brink. The Empire wasn't just demanding tribute. It was demanding Earth's obedience, its submission to a far-reaching and oppressive rule. She was due for another meeting with Krellin in an hour. A deep breath. She steadied herself. Her aide, Lieutenant Anna Ruiz, entered the room, her face etched with concern. Commander, we received a new message from the Empire. Governor Krellin insists that if we don't comply by the end of the day, they will begin taking military action. Sarah swiveled in her chair. What exactly does that mean? Anna shook her head. We're still not clear, but it's a direct threat. They've initiated what they call a lockdown sequence, meaning they're preparing to disable our satellite communications. Sarah frowned. Disabling Earth communications would be a strategic move, but it also suggested that they were getting desperate. Do we have anything on our side to counteract that? Anna hesitated before replying. Our technicians are working on it. They believe they can put up a temporary firewall, but it's risky. The Empire has been jamming our signals. It's only a matter of time before they detect our efforts. Sarah stood, walking toward the large window that overlooked the city. Earth was still the same. The chaos outside, the traffic, the people, everything was just as it had been, unaware of the storm that was brewing in the heavens above. This is more than just a matter of defending our systems, Anna. The Empire wants to force us into submission. They're testing how far we're willing to go. Anna nodded. And you're not giving in, are you? Sarah met her gaze, her voice firm. I won't. We're not just fighting for Earth's survival. We're fighting for our dignity. We're not going to be some vassal world. Her comm unit buzzed, breaking the silence. The Empire had initiated another transmission. Put it through, Sarah ordered. The holographic image of Governor Krellin flickered to life before her. His figure, tall and imposing, stood in the projection, his cold, unblinking eyes focused directly on her. Commander Steele. Krellin's voice was as smooth as polished stone. It seems that Earth's leaders still cling to this illusion of independence. You have been given ample time to consider your options. The Empire does not make idle threats. If you continue to resist, we will consider this an act of war. Sarah's voice was steady. You've made your intentions clear, Krellin, and I've made mine. We will not bow to you. Not now, not ever. Krellin's lips curled into a slight smile, a cruel smile. You miscalculate, Commander. The Empire is beyond your ability to stop. You will submit, or your planet will suffer. He cut the transmission abruptly, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. She knew that this wouldn't be over quickly. Every word, every moment, had been pushing them closer to conflict. There was no turning back now. Turning to Anna, Sarah sighed. Prepare the military. We may not have much time. In the depths of Earth's military command center, a group of top strategists gathered around the planning table. Sarah stood at the head of the group, studying the projection of the Empire's fleet. The ships were massive. Each one could house thousands of soldiers, weapons far superior to anything Earth could muster. Yet, the command center buzzed with a quiet determination. Earth's military had been trained for this moment. They would not stand down. Commander Steele, General Albright spoke up, his voice deep and gravelly. We've started to implement the firewall. It's up, but it's not foolproof. If they notice any discrepancies, it could be over before it starts. I'm aware, Sarah replied. We need more than just a firewall. We need to throw them off balance. If we can hit their communication systems at their weakest point. A coordinated strike, suggested Captain Hendricks, a young strategist with an excellent grasp of unconventional tactics. If we target their smaller relay stations, it might create enough of a disturbance to force them to divert resources from the main fleet. Sarah nodded. Exactly. But we'll need to move quickly, and we can't afford to be discovered. I want multiple teams in place, ready to strike simultaneously. They won't know what hit them. Understood, General Albright replied. But what about their fleet? Are we preparing for an offensive? Sarah met his gaze. We'll have to, but only if we must. Their fleet is a formidable opponent. We can't afford to engage unless we absolutely have to. The room grew quiet, the weight of the decision settling over them. Earth was about to play its hand, and the risks were enormous. A direct confrontation with the Empire could result in the destruction of entire cities. Yet, inaction would guarantee their subjugation. We need a diversion, Captain Hendricks suggested, his fingers tapping on the table. Something to draw their attention away from the main force. If we can buy time for the relay strike, we might be able to buy the fleet a window to retaliate. I agree, Sarah said, her voice resolute. I'll coordinate with the global forces. We need to move quickly. The sun was beginning to set as Sarah stood on the balcony of the UN building, looking out over the city. Earth was quiet, peaceful, unaware of the impending storm. Her mind raced through the plans, the relay strikes, the diversion, the fleet positioning. But each move she made felt like a step into the unknown. Suddenly, her communicator buzzed. It was Anna again. Commander, she said, urgency in her voice. The Empire has initiated their lockdown sequence. The communications blackout is starting. They're beginning to disable our satellites. Sarah's stomach tightened. Then we have no time left. We go now. As Earth's forces prepared for the inevitable, Sarah's thoughts remained clear. There was no turning back. The Empire's demands had been made, and Earth's answer was already written in the stars. The time for diplomacy was over. Now, it was a battle for survival, for freedom, and for humanity's future. And it was a fight that Sarah Steele would see through to the E. Chapter 4. The countdown had begun, and Sarah Steele stood in the heart of Earth's last defense. The Empire's fleet loomed above them like a dark storm cloud, casting a long shadow over their planet. Sarah's eyes were fixed on the enormous holographic map spread out before her in the military command center. Thousands of data points blinked across the screen. Satellite communications, fleet movements, tactical positions. Every number, every line, could be the difference between life and extinction. Commander Steele, General Albright's voice broke through her thoughts, his tone laced with anxiety. We're ready to launch the relay strike. But if this fails, we'll be facing their full fleet. We need to consider that possibility. Sarah nodded, her face stone cold. If it fails, we'll make them regret it. Earth will never fall without a fight. The general didn't respond, but the weight of his gaze told her everything. They all understood the stakes. The Empire's fleet had been in orbit for nearly 48 hours, each passing minute adding to the pressure. The Empire had given Earth one final ultimatum: surrender or face immediate annihilation. And yet, despite everything, they hadn't bent. They would never bend. "Sir," Lieutenant Anna Ruiz called out, her fingers flying over the command console. "We've intercepted a transmission from the Empire. It's a direct threat. They've already deployed their assault units." "Understood," Sarah replied, her voice measured, though inside, her pulse quickened. "Prepare the fleet. It's time." The Empire was already moving. A massive wave of energy pulsed through the air as the fleet's weapons systems powered up. Sarah's heart raced, but she kept her focus. The time for diplomacy had ended, and now, Earth's defense was in the hands of the few who stood ready to fight back. The night outside the command center was unusually still, as if the world was holding its breath. Sarah stepped onto the balcony, her gaze turning upward. The sky was a blanket of stars, but the dark shadows of the Empire's ships distorted it. Monolithic vessels that seemed to watch, waiting to strike. The contrast was unnerving, a peaceful world beneath a military juggernaut. "How many hours left?" Anna's voice interrupted her thoughts. "Less than 2, Sarah replied. "Let's make them count." Back in the heart of the operations room, the atmosphere was tense, the low hum of equipment the only sound breaking the silence. Sarah paced before the team, each officer focused on their tasks, fingers flying over consoles, eyes flicking between screens. The team was ready. They'd rehearsed the plan for days. Now, they were executing it in real time, each second more crucial than the last. "We're in position," General Albright's voice came through the comms. "The relay strike is locked in." "Proceed," Sarah said, her voice unwavering. The tension in the room was palpable. As the relay team initiated the strike, a sudden jolt ran through the building. For a moment, everything went silent, the calm before the storm. Sarah turned toward the map again, watching the intricate dance of Earth's fleet and the Empire's colossal ships. On the holographic display, the first signs of disruption appeared. Several smaller relay stations began to flicker on the Empire's side, their signals distorted, jammed. A wave of success swept through the room. Their strategy was working. But then came the counterattack. Earth's military sensors picked up a sudden surge of energy as the Empire's forces retaliated. A fleet of Empire ships moved into a direct assault formation, positioning themselves to strike Earth's defensive stations. "Prepare for incoming fire," shouted Captain Hendricks, his eyes locked on the approaching enemy formations. In the chaos of war, there was a strange calm that Sarah found in battle. She moved quickly, her every command clear, decisive. "Evade," Sarah ordered, as a massive barrage of energy beams began to rain down on Earth's first line of defense. The ground shook as the Empire's weapons hit Earth's defenses. The shields of Earth's fleet held for the moment, but they wouldn't last long. Sarah watched the visuals feed, explosions blooming in space, lighting up the black void. Her mind worked like a machine, running calculations, assessing possibilities. But inside, the pressure built, like a pressure cooker on the verge of exploding. "General, how long until the second phase of the plan is in motion?" Sarah asked, her voice calm, but carrying an undercurrent of urgency. "We're still working on it," General Albright responded, sweat beading on his brow. "Their forces are overwhelming, but the diversion is working." The diversion had been a risk. The plan involved sending smaller, faster ships into the heart of the Empire's fleet to draw their fire, hoping to buy enough time for the relay strike to disrupt their systems. It was a dangerous gamble, but it was their best shot. "Keep pushing," Sarah said. "We need more time. The Empire won't give up easily." As Sarah's words left her lips, the lights flickered. It wasn't just the building. An electromagnetic pulse reverberated through the air, jamming the communication systems. The Empire had retaliated. Earth's firewall systems were under heavy assault. "Commander, we're losing contact with half the fleet." Anna's voice cut through the chaos. "We can't track their movements. Recalibrate the secondary systems." Sarah barked. "We need full status reports now." "Jamming interference is too strong," came the response from the operations center. "The Empire's fleet is targeting our signal relay stations directly." Sarah stood still, her fists clenched. This wasn't supposed to happen. Earth's resistance wasn't supposed to break so soon. And yet, as the jamming continued, the odds stacked higher against them. Suddenly, a new signal cut through the interference. It was faint, but it was there. "General, I've got a new relay reading," Anna said, her fingers flying across the screen. "It's coming from the third relay station on the Empire's left flank." "Can we access it?" Sarah asked, her heart pounding. Anna hesitated. "It's risky. They'll notice immediately. We don't have a choice." Sarah's voice was a razor-sharp command. "Take the shot." The plan was in motion. Earth's military struck hard and fast, sending a concentrated pulse into the heart of the Empire systems. The signal was weak, but it was enough. It wasn't a victory, not yet, but it bought them time. The battle was far from over. The Empire's response was swift and brutal. Earth's fleet was being systematically overwhelmed, but the diversion, the surprise strikes, the unexpected tactics, these were enough to slow the Empire's advance, to show them that Earth wasn't just a defenseless world. "We got them on the back foot," Sarah said, turning to General Albright. "Keep the pressure on. Keep pushing forward." Albright nodded. For Earth. As the sounds of war raged outside, Sarah Steele knew that this was their last stand. Earth had fought to preserve its freedom, and no matter the cost, they would stand together. This was humanity's moment. Not for submission, not for surrender, for survival. Chapter 5: The battle had reached its zenith, a brutal clash of wills that seemed to stretch the very fabric of reality. The sound of explosions rattled the walls of the command center, a constant reminder of the war raging outside. Sarah Steele stood still in front of the tactical display, her hands clenched into fists. Earth's defenses had held longer than anyone had expected, but the tide was turning. The Empire's fleet was far too powerful. "Commander, we've lost contact with the Northern Fleet," Lieutenant Anna Ruiz reported, her voice tense but composed. "Their shields are down. They're about to be overrun." Sarah's eyes remained focused on the tactical map, each red blip representing a human ship under attack. The strategic gamble, the diversion, the relay strikes had worked. But now, it seemed like it was all falling apart. Earth's fleets were struggling to hold their ground. "How long before the reinforcements arrive?" Sarah asked, her voice tight. "Another 30 minutes, at least," Anna answered, glancing at the array of flashing data on her console. "But we can't guarantee they'll make it in time." "I'll guarantee it," Sarah muttered under her breath, her determination solidifying like steel. She turned toward General Albright, who was already preparing for the next phase of the operation. "General, we need to push them back," she said firmly. "Now." Albright nodded without hesitation. "We'll strike them at their weak point, their main ship's propulsion system. It's the only way we can slow them down long enough for the reinforcements to arrive." Sarah's pulse quickened. It was their last chance. If they failed, the Empire would crush Earth's defenses within hours, and humanity's fight for survival would be lost. "Send the fleet. Full speed ahead. No holding back." Outside the command center, the air was thick with anticipation. The explosions continued to reverberate, punctuated by the steady hum of Earth's remaining ships trying to fend off the Empire's overwhelming assault. Inside, the strategists worked feverishly, issuing orders, recalculating positions, and coordinating with their fleets. "Commander, we've spotted a weakness in their formation," Captain Hendricks said, his voice laced with urgency. "If we hit their flagship now, we might be able to disrupt their command systems." Sarah's eyes darted to the screen. The Empire's flagship was large, far larger than anything Earth could ever dream of building. Yet, like any ship, it had vulnerabilities. There was always a way in a weakness to exploit. "Target their propulsion systems," Sarah ordered. "Take out their engines. We'll cripple them long enough for the reinforcements to strike." The command center erupted in activity as ships began to alter their course, aligning for the final offensive. Sarah's mind raced through the possibilities. If they could sever the flagship's mobility, the Empire's momentum would stall. The reinforcements would arrive, and Earth might just have a fighting chance. The battlefield above Earth became a frenetic whirl of combat. The Empire's ships, their glowing weapons lighting up the dark void of space, were relentless, but Earth's fleet was fighting back with a ferocity no one had anticipated. With every strike, every tactical move, Earth's forces were proving that their resilience was their greatest weapon. "All ships, target the flagship's engines." Sarah's voice rang out over the comms, her orders cutting through the chaos. As her words reached the fleet, a wave of ships surged toward the Empire's flagship. Energy blasts tore through space, striking the massive vessel with precision. The first hit on the flagship's shields sent a ripple through the surrounding area, but it wasn't enough. Sarah gritted her teeth. They would need more than this to bring it down. "Keep the pressure on them," Sarah ordered, watching the sequence unfold. "We need those engines offline now." Then a breakthrough. One of Earth's fastest ships, a sleek, nimble vessel, breached the Empire's defenses, firing a direct shot at the heart of the flagship's propulsion system. A blinding flash erupted from the massive ship, followed by a series of smaller explosions that rocked the fleet. The flagship's engines sputtered, then faltered. A massive plume of smoke and debris billowed from the core, signaling the first victory of the battle. The Empire's command ship was no longer in motion, its once perfect trajectory thrown into disarray. The victory was short-lived, however. As Sarah watched the Empire's flagship stumble, a new wave of dread settled over her. More ships were appearing, additional reinforcements from the Empire, massive vessels that dwarfed Earth's fleet. "Commander, we've just detected a second wave of reinforcements, coming in fast." Anna's voice was full of alarm. The reinforcements were arriving faster than Earth's fleet could handle. The Empire had anticipated Earth's resistance and had deployed more of their formidable ships to finish the job. Sarah's heart sank. They couldn't hold out forever. Her comms buzzed, and she quickly responded. "Sarah," the voice of President Hayes crackled through the static. "We've seen the damage. The reinforcements, they're too many. We need to make a decision now." Sarah's chest tightened. She knew what he was asking. Earth had come so far, but now, as the second wave of the Empire's fleet advanced, they stood on the precipice of total destruction. The question was no longer whether Earth would survive. It was whether humanity could ever hold its ground in the face of the Empire's unrelenting might. "We will fight until the end," Sarah replied, her voice resolute. "We will make them regret underestimating us." As Earth's ships collided with the Empire's forces, the battle reached its peak. For every ship that fell, another took its place. The explosions, the energy surges, the screams of disintegrating metal, each felt like a personal blow to Sarah. But she held firm, her focus unwavering. Then, through the haze of destruction, the impossible happened. The reinforcements Earth had been waiting for, their final line of defense, arrived. The Empire's forces faltered. "We're not done yet," General Albright said, his voice triumphant. "They didn't expect us to hold out this long. Their supply lines are stretched thin." It was true. The Empire's forces had underestimated Earth's will to survive, and now they were paying for it. With the arrival of the reinforcements, Earth's forces launched a coordinated counterattack, pushing back the Empire's remaining ships. Sarah stood in the command center, watching the battle unfold, the tide of war slowly turning in their favor. The Empire's ships were retreating now, some disintegrating in the vacuum of space, others crippled by Earth's relentless strikes. It wasn't over, but the victory was theirs. As the final Empire ships retreated into the depths of space, Sarah allowed herself a moment to breathe. The cost had been staggering and the future uncertain, but Earth had won. The Empire had been driven back. "We did it," Anna whispered, her voice filled with awe. Sarah didn't respond immediately. The weight of the battle, the sacrifice, the decisions, they all pressed on her heart. Earth had survived. But at what cost? "We're not done yet," Sarah said quietly, watching the empty expanse of space where the Empire's fleet had once loomed. "This is just the beginning."